Welcome to another episode of Under the Barbell Strength podcast. I'm your host, Colton Haynes, and if this is your first time tuning in, we'd love for you to follow and subscribe. Feel free to leave us a comment with any questions or topics you'd like for us to cover. The purpose of this podcast is both educational and an opportunity to showcase some incredible coaches I've had the privilege to meet throughout my journey in the strength and conditioning world. I think listeners will enjoy the diverse range of guests who will share their experiences in coaching, enhancing athletic performance, nutritional strategies, speed training, and exploring the mentality of being a strength coach. By uncovering the weight room philosophies and strategies that make these strength coaches successful, you'll gain valuable principles to elevate your own team's performance. So join us as we grow together one conversation at a time. Joining us today is Coach Kreis of Chadron State University. Coach Kreis started his career at Western Colorado, where he played college football. After 4 years of college football, Coach Kreis started his master's at Chadron State University and later had his first job as Director of Strength Conditioning at Chadron State. Coach Kreis holds a CSCS, SCC, USAW1, and is also engaged to Gabrielle. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thank you very much, Coach. Appreciate you having me on.
Well, first of all, what a great resume to have. You started as an intern, and then you went right into a GA, and then now you're a head coach. Talk about that transition and how you got to where you are now.
I would be lying if I didn't say my route was slightly unique, so I do think that should be addressed right away in terms of that. But growing up, my dad was one of the founders or originals of strength conditioning. So through the CSCCA, he is retired as a legend in the field. He passed away a few years ago, which is awesome. So, when I was growing up, I was kind of just like submerged in the weight room. So like growing up around racks and watching teams train all those hours, that was normal for me. So when I got to college, knowing you got to now pick what you do for courses and now it's your option, it was like, do you want to go to the business class or do you want to learn about high altitude training versus sea level? And I was like, yeah, I'll take that other option. That sounds real interesting. So one, academically, it was a better fit. And then as I finished playing, getting into coaching, I'd be lying to say that my dad's foundation didn't help. Like that, I'd brush that off if I didn't address it. So as I started looking for opportunities, like right out of playing ball, shoulder pads are off, graduating, inside of our conference, Chadron State at the time was doing tremendously well in terms of success, and they had just built this 6,500 square foot weight room. And I joke about this, but I honestly think this is how it happened, was they built this beautiful facility and were then like, oh no, we're a D2 program that doesn't have someone to watch this whole facility. So coined the term strength conditioning graduate assistant. I got that opportunity very young, which was great. And unique about it was there was no head strength coach. I was a department of one, labeled as a graduate assistant. So just took on big challenges really early in my career, which I think was one of the best things I could have grown through. When I was going through a graduate assistant, they then promoted me to what they called a coaching assistant, restricted earnings positions. Once I finished with that, I guess they ran out of titles, man, because at that point they gave me the director of strength conditioning opportunity. So 10 years in, man, this is home and I love this place.
For sure. And, you talked about your dad being a legend. Let's, give him some respect. Talk about his background and, what he did to bring you up.
All right, you're going to stay with me here for a quick second. But originally for me, I am a Nashville, Tennessee native. He was at Vanderbilt at the time. From there was MTSU. Most of my memories stem from Colorado because he was the head of CU Boulder, Colorado, pre-Dion era. So
Yep.
At first, but within that, CU for 11 to 12 seasons, so 91 to 2002. Won the Big 12 in 2001. They lost in the Big 12 in 2002. Expectations are big in Division I. That is what it is. Once he had another opportunity from Colorado, was UCLA for 6 to 7 years, and then following that was Olympic hopefuls working out in Marina Del Rey, California. So, that man's laid the foundation. To say big shoes is an understatement. So, he did everything for a lot of us.
And you were always in the weight room growing up, you can remember?
Dude, like from the beginning. Sorry, I'm going to get loose sometimes as we talk, but like from a littlest of memories, I got some pictures over on the wall of a guy over there he's got 315 overhead. I'm about 5 steps away. Like, I fell on the platform, don't know if I'd be here kind of thing. But yeah, it was growing up in the weight room, as in football has 6 a.m. runs. I'm sleeping in my dad's office at 6, and then someone's taking me to school for 8 o'clock. So it was in the weight room when you weren't at school type of thing.
So at what point was it like you're interested in it and you're, being opposed to having to be there?
That's a good one. I think somewhere around like middle school-ish, because it was never forced to train. My dad's big, strong man, obviously within this profession, done some great things, but training was never forced onto me. It was always like the weight room was a playground, and the day I told him, like, hey, Dad, I want to train, it was like, that's when we'll start training. So I think it was like 7th-ish grade of like, I want to start training, not just being in the weight room and hitting the pull-ups and monkey bar related things that were fun as a kid, and kind of then realizing like, oh, this is also later on in life, but it's a profession. You get paid to hang out with athletes. So then for me, that was a no-brainer.
For sure. And so going back to you talked about challenges you had when you first started from an intern, GA, and then now director. Talk about those challenges and how did you teach yourself these things? Did you call on anybody to help you with these things?
I think you have to have somewhat of a mentor tree. You have to have people in your corner, I guess is a better way to say it. And I've been very fortunate to have really good people in my corner throughout my career, from my time playing in college athletics to, hey, I think I want to do this, to this is what I want to do, to have those people to call. Donnie Mabe at the University of Texas, Super Dave is what I call him, but Dave Pletty at Florida State, Jeff Mad Dog Madden, you've got to reference that man. Like,
yep.
I've been very fortunate to be able to have some contacts for that. So I think that's absolutely helped shape some of those challenges, but definitely not reinventing the wheel. So not trying to do it myself. I guess this is kind of a Mike Boyle, I think, saying, but if I had to say, like, as a strength coach, what do I think I'm the best at? I'm the best thieving strength coach that there is. If there's something that works in your program, Coach Haynes, I want to take it and see if it can apply to mine. If this is working for other schools, I'd be an idiot not to try to find a way to incorporate it if it fits our training style. So I think trying to get as many different references as you can, is you also kind of develop your own, or as we tell athletes, like, what's your why? You also, as a coach, like, you develop your why through those connections.
You mentioned all these legends, what did you learn from them?
Oh man, I'm going to understate it. Someone's going to get upset here. I think the biggest commonality that I took away is that great people can make good strength coaches. And it's not the other way around. That sets and reps are awesome, and we love it. We're going to end up talking about this for a while, but it's the people that are not just in the office or not just part-time, but good people make great coaches. And that's one of the things they all have in common, is that they are servant-based leaders, and they will do anything for the people they care about. So once you're in that circle, you are that in that family, and they'll do anything for you. So I think, that's made it pretty easy.
Yeah, and that's what makes a great strength coach as well, is that others are first, and we're not in it for the pay, for sure.
Not on our level.
So, D2, talk about your staff, talk about how, you said you started it, explain the situation you're at now.
First off, thank you for the question, because getting to hype my guys up, man, that's the best part of this. So started as a staff of one, took on a lot of teams responsibilities. From there, had an opportunity once I was the director to have graduate assistants. Had some really, really good ones right out of the gate. Currently, our assistant director, that's been with me for 7 years now, Chase McClendon. That's my dog. Dude's one of my best friends at this point. I mean, he started as a graduate assistant, worked his way to the assistant director, and to be at D2 school and say, I'm just finished year 10, he's finishing year number 7, and we've done this whole thing together here. He's been a part of that process of making sure we built it the right way, and easiest way to say, he stayed around for the results and the continued work. So I'm incredibly proud of that man, and he's a super big part of our program here and everything that we do top down. From there, we have 2 graduate assistants. Chadron's unique in that we just use the term coaching assistants. It's a graduate assistant with just slightly better pay cycle, but the exact same type of positions. We have an individual, Braden Meacham. That dude, if you ever had a chance to talk with him, he'll never hype himself up. He's one of the smartest individuals I've been around. He started as a true student, intern, like undergrad, just walked through the doors, introduced himself, said, hey, I want to do this. And it was kind of like one of those things of he was around a lot, and then he was never gone, and then every day I'm there, he's there. If I'm early or late, he's also there. And he did that for 2 straight years unpaid. And when we had the chance to hire him, it was a no-brainer. Like, this is our guy. That's when we learned he's a 4.0 student. Like, yeah, okay, this is why he can do the things he does. Incredibly smart and gifted. And then to finish us out is Marcus Santillana. Hired him out of Augsburg University, where he played football at, and he joined us in August, and he's been an awesome asset for our program. From football through cross country, he's kind of like a, I can help you with everything type of guy, and we need that on staff.
Now, what values are you teaching these guys? You know, they all look to you for help and, insight. What are you teaching them from the bottom up?
That's a good question. I think that's honestly something, Coach Haynes, I've had to be better at, because when you start as a staff of one, you also, you're like this, and you're holding everything so tight, and you got to learn to let things go and let your coaches grow. So I guess to answer that is they are their own people. They are their own coaches. Yes, there's a standard as an organization or per team, but at the end of it, I try to make sure we're on the same page of what are our core principles and philosophies for our department, and then you're your people once you step out of there. But these are our commonalities for this department. How you want to say it, phrase it, go about it, and interact, that's more going back to the good person part of that's just who you are as a coach. I'm not going to control your interactions and what you're doing, but I want to make sure our principle, philosophy, statement of beliefs all are under this umbrella, whether they're perfectly in line or not.
And are you teaching philosophy to them? Do they come with their own mindset? Are you trying to slowly progress them to do what you think is correct?
The first part of that is, I think, as strength coaches, sometimes we all speak absolute too much. And that can be a great thing if we're citing a research article that's verbatim by the book. But at the same time, our profession isn't absolutes. So I kind of separate that as are you a baker or are you a cook? And what I talk to my staff on that is a baker, you have to follow the ingredients. This is my program. It's perfect. Follow it to a T. If you mess it up, the results also don't happen. Versus being a cook and a chef and a couple spices altered here or there, it's just your flavor profile. The dish is still the dish. And I really think about that with strength conditioning. They don't have to fit this mold coming in for me. And I absolutely don't want them walking out of this place for other opportunities fitting exactly what I am. So to start that off is for Coach Mick, as I phrase him as Chase McClendon, our assistant director, him and I work really well under that umbrella, but we don't think the same. We don't program the same. We don't think of a sprint progression the exact same. But man, do we work really well together. And I think it's almost you don't want to hire what you have or what you are, but you also don't need this curveball you can't handle coming out of the corner. So I think teaching them that if you can justify your answers and if you have a plan that you stick to, not an idea, but a plan, then sometimes your justifications can be more accurate or not than others. But going back to that plan versus idea, if you have your plan in place, macro, cycle, micro, whatever you want to phrase it as, if you're unwavering within that plan, not as an absolute, but saying you've done your homework and you've done your due diligence, now that's something you stick to, because an idea is just like that sounds. I have an idea to wrestle this way tonight. Oh, it didn't go well. I'll try it this way the other match. It's no, we're going to stick to the plan. Not in absolutes, but making sure that this has all been as organized as we can. Not to fit my mold, but yeah, they're their own people. I might like to see certain exercise selection. As a director, I get a little bit of that pull.
Yep.
At the same time, it's I hired them for reasons. Be those reasons. Let me see it.
Well, I'm still in that baker versus cook thing. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I don't know if I heard that. I told you, I'm a thieving strength coach, man. If I need to reference someone later on, I'm sorry. I stole it. Maybe I did.
That was awesome. Talk about your responsibilities. What teams are you responsible for, and what do you do?
D2, man, as you know, and if anyone listening doesn't know, we wear a lot of hats. You're not just the strength guy, just the speed guy, nutrition guy. You wear a lot. From top down, how I'm going to view this is oversee my staff. I think that's one of the most important just jobs that there is, because you can say you oversee all the teams, but that's delivered through your staff. So starting with them, making sure that's kind of priority one for us. Then from there, directly oversee aspects of football, which I also do split with Coach Mick in terms of front seven or outside the box. But oversee all aspects of football, men's wrestling, volleyball. Nutrition is kind of my baby. Depending on RTP or return to play, on the severity or stages of rehab, I'll be probably the most involved with that. And then, man, does my staff do an amazing job after that, because if I tell you those are the things I focus on, that means those guys are handling 100 other things I didn't just list. So that's where I try to put my focus. But at the end of it, man, there's some days we're doing laundry, we're mopping, we're tightening down bolts in this place. Like, you do it all as a strength.
You got to do it all in D2, for sure. How do you keep your sports, sports specific to everything? I know it's a general term we throw around. You want to obviously get the football guys doing football things and wrestlers doing wrestling things. In your mind, what do you classify as being sports specific?
Well, I'm either going to make someone happy or mad at these answers. I don't think this is not a fair one. Someone gets offended on this. I agree with you, though. We throw that term around like so loosely in our profession, like this is sport specific. It's important to have the elements. It's important for the athletes to feel that that's what they're getting individually for their teams. When I go back to kind of your question on there, it's, I guess, one of the references I've heard. You don't need to take the sport and then make it look like that in the weight room. There's elements, absolutely, but I don't necessarily need my baseball pitcher throwing the arm forward every time in the weight room, because that's what he does, as an example. But I do think you look at, one, injury sites is how we kind of start a lot of our off seasons, just very generically of this team was very severe in shoulders. One, what sport is it and why? But then trying to work backwards from there. I think working with your sport coach, especially in Division II, is so incredibly important, because if my men's wrestling coach says, hey, we are a high tempo in your face type of program and we're going to use all 3 periods and wear you out, I better bring some of those similar things to the strength approach. And it doesn't have to be that they are the exact same at all the time, but we can't want different things. We can't be in a heavy conditioning, high tempo segment and then I'm putting them under the bar for heavy volume 10s or something along those lines, or circuits. So we have a great plan in place with it, but I think trying to make sure you look at the sport individually, the person in that sport, because my 125 versus our heavyweight, very different styles. But at the end of it, wrestling is a sport. We know this is where we need to try to put armor on your body. This is for you how you score points. You're an explosive guy. Let's run with it. I think trying to have a general theme for the program is great, because at the same time, I would like to not have 35 guys and 35 programs. If I get to that point of it's the best for them, I hope I truly can. But we also try to make sure we're training within that group, training the masses, but pushing the elements of the sport that make them successful. So if a guy's fast, make him faster. A guy's strong, make him stronger. I never want to say, let's only focus on the weakness. I think that's the worst thing you could do. I forget who posted it the other day. It was an awesome saying, but it was, if you only focus on your weakness and you neglect your strength, it's like wanting to be a better communicator and learning another language. It's like, congratulations, you're average at 2. So it's, I think for me, that was kind of like a hitting moment or a resonating moment of just trying to make sure it doesn't have to be exact. But if you have your sport coach on your side, you have a plan in place, and you can justify that plan, I think ultimately to me, that is sport-specific training. And them walking out of those doors feeling like better than they walked in, best hour of your day, but they are better in their sport because of the weight room. That'd be an awesome thing for them to say.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's the same for you as it is for me, but we're having to meet these coaches a lot and talk about what they see as their needs. And, you go to practices and you see what they are weak in. And again, this is the way it is for me at fairs, but these athletes are coming to me and asking, hey, how can I be better laterally? What can I do for this? So as strength coaches, we got to do these things that are kind of unheard of for a lot of teams, where you have that personality and a personal relationship with coaches and players. Can you just explain your base foundation of your programming? What is your staple? What do you believe in the most? And how are you implementing that?
Make sure I think through this. I think I'm trying to think through, make sure Coach Vargas at Upper Iowa dropped a few of the terms that I want to make sure, try to separate a little bit from the commonalities of us. If you were what we want to call the silent tape, if you watch the silent tape of there's no music, you don't get to hear it, there's just a camera in the top of the weight room and you're watching it, What I think you would see from that, or what I hope you would see, is simple things savagely well, hair on fire mentality, and an incredibly high attention to detail. I also think I gave you 3 right there. A lot of people say, hey, these are my pillars, this is what we are. But if I had to say, like, hey, I want you to remember this, that's the 3 things I think our silent tape shows. If we want to now talk a little more specific, I do believe in a GPP, a true GPP to start off seasons on there. So typical for us is between that 60 to 70. We kind of 65 is more of our average for start. We ran a lot of different training programs through the years. I just finished my 10th season. We've done variations of West Side early in my career. We touched on some Feed the Cats. We loved some triphasic for a while, man. I think what we're closest to right now would be a variation of 5-3-1 with elements of triphasic approach in there. So we really do like the roughly training for a 2 to 3 week span and then getting a rep max, calculate it, convert it, train for a few weeks, drop that, now let's go for a 5+, few weeks 3+, few weeks 1+. Had a lot of success with especially our younger athletes within that last 2 years, but our love of triphasic, also with Coach Mick coming from the University of Minnesota with Cal Dietz, one that was a great person to have in reference for one to run this cycle.
Yep.
There was some components of triphasic we loved, and then there was a couple that we just thought didn't fit us amazingly. So like I said, thieving strength coach, trying to get what works for us, but we're not one program to a T. Never just want to be a buckshot and hope it works, but I'd say primarily 5-3-1 to a triphasic would be our foundation.
Got you. And I can appreciate that because that's what we do here as well. We'll do, off season, if we're talking about that. We'll do 2 weeks of everything's negative, and that's part of the triphasic. 2 weeks of everything's paused, whether it's pin press or pause squat, and then 2 weeks of just regular, with no tempo.
Yep.
So we'll mix that in as well as some conjugate. So we'll do some change bands, we'll do dynamic effort days, we'll do max effort days, and upper lower on both of them. So we're hitting that as well as some volume. I think volume's very important. I'm just speaking on football right now, but volume's important, and I think we have to build that muscular endurance as well as that strength and power as well. So I just kind of wanted to throw a little bit of what I believed in my foundation as well, too.
Pause you there, because I know you said you wanted this to be more of you asking the questions, but I do want to hear from you on it. When you're running part of your eccentric portion of it, are you using that within a 6 to 8 rep range to get your volume consideration, or are you using it for strength work and then putting volume in at a different point of the week?
The second thing you just said, we do 2 weeks of negatives, 2 weeks of pauses. That first week for both of those blocks, I guess you can say it, we're doing 5x5 and then 5x3. So it's volume, but with strength work as well.
Yep.
And so we'll do like a 4-second eccentric. So if we're squatting that max effort day, that first day we're doing a 5x5, slow tempo down. We're working, and I just got here, so I sadly don't know the percentages, so they get to a good heavy working set.
Yep.
That second week we'll run a 5x3, and I'll tell them, this is me talking as a new strength coach. If you don't know maxes, your last set you did in the week 1, that should be your first set in week 2.
Gotcha.
And then we'll go to week 3, which is our pause in. We'll do 5x5, and then week 4. 5x3, week 5, we're doing that 5x5, 5x3 again. And this is for our main lifts.
Yeah.
And then our week 7 is usually when we test, where we will do our 5-3, then actual 1. So we're maybe maxing out once every, blue moon. We rarely max out in my program. Over time, you talk about things that work and don't work. Every time we max out, not that anybody gets hurt, but form gets bad. It feels like it's a wasted day in my mind. So we'll go off, we'll do a lot of cluster sets for that too. And, we just kind of mix it up like that. I think a bench is a bench at the end of the day. You can throw any kind of rep scheme, and these college guys are going to eat it up. But in order to engage them for a long period of time, You can do cluster sets. You can do it with bands, with chains, and we sprinkle all that in there as well.
That was awesome to hear. I mean, it feels like we just walked out of one of our staff meetings because you just said everything we covered this week. So thank you. Good job.
Yeah, for sure. And again, man, you see what works and what doesn't work. You can bring our guys to any other school and they'll probably get their butt kicked. But, what works here doesn't work somewhere else. And it all is about, how you translate it as a coach, I believe.
No, that was awesome.
So we'll talk about your in-season approach. This is everybody's favorite thing. How can you keep your guys healthy throughout a season? Not even just football. You can talk about any other sport you do. But in season, how are you maintaining as long as you can go?
The goal is to go as long as you can go, first off, right? We're all thankful to play 11 games. The hope is to be healthy enough and have the opportunity that if you have a 12th and you've earned that, you're also healthy enough to compete and win. So that's at least how I want to start that approach there. But
Yep.
I'd love to play every game as healthy as possible. That's the goal. There's a million factors, right? I don't think it's even possible for us to cover half of them right now. I mean, when I was looking up, just knowing your guys' success from last year, I was like, I want to know scores before we jump on this call. And then just looking at, the point spread or point differential in some of your games was substantial. So, I think depending on just success of the game individually also dictates a lot of that training around it. I'd love to have a few games where we put up some of those differentials you had and pull some of those guys for a good
Yeah, we were fortunate where, we would get those kind of games and we could sit our starters. So not necessarily it's an off week for them, but we can still, like I said, push as far as we can in season with our training program.
Yeah.
So those kind of scores obviously do help and keep the players healthy, but sorry to interrupt you.
You're good, and we're going to get there on it for ours, and winning solves a lot of issues, don't it? It's all like winning solves a lot, and losing puts a microscope on it sometimes. But to go back to your question of in-season training, love to keep the guys as strong as they possibly could the entire year. I kind of said it with a laugh in there because that's the goal, and then how do you get there is kind of the next one, right? How I think of in-season, first off, for us is like the fall camp start. Volume for us is going to plummet. Fall camp, we even are pretty gentle on the legs that first one or two lifts and then get back in it so we don't get away from it from too much. But as we go in season, volume's heck of a lot lower. I would say if we're on a major, I don't have it in front of me, but 3 and 4 is kind of where we live a lot. We'll touch a 5, we'll touch 2s, we'll absolutely get to 1s on there also, but 2 to 4, kind of a lot more common for us. And going back to, we don't speak in absolutes. We like to squat. I'm not telling you, though, that means barbell, front, back, split, RFE. We like to squat, though. That is, like I said, under the umbrella of the philosophies there. But as we go in season, volume will drop. Want to keep intensity high, but in the safe realm of risk versus reward. At the same time, I truly do believe, though, our athletes should typically be at 90% at most times. Not saying that's your training max at all times, but roughly if you came into our program and you're like, hey, week 3, game 3 through game 11, I want you to squat 90 here. I'd look at you and probably, yeah, we can hit it, because we live around 80 so consistently for our program, for percentage-wise. As we get to the midpoint of the year, a lot of just what's happening on the field or recovery-wise starts to steer some of our decisions. We reached a point where guys just kind of banged up upper body, and it wasn't overly significant. I'm not downplaying it, but it was more like mitigating soreness and injury stuff. We got off a barbell press for, I think, 2 weeks, brought it back. Guys wanted it back, but it also allowed us just to get off it from being so consistent for so long. And then we will finish the year not getting away from those lifts, but a little bit higher of a focus on that RFD, or rate of force development. So if a guy can squat 500, I'm just going to use this generically, if he can squat 500, man, that's awesome. If he can do it at half a meter per second, that's awesome. If he does it in 3 seconds, I still think that's awesome. But as we start to reach that kind of other end, or finishing the season, thinking of postseason play, not so much of, well, can he still do it, versus let's focus on the rate of force development. And now let's make sure we have it drop below the 90%. We don't have to necessarily test it. So I do think, and then within that, we've given some autonomy at times of, I think I know what your body needs. I think. And I think you need some lower body work right now. I don't know, though, if that means trap bar or back squat. And we've given them an option sometimes. Like, hey, these are sets, reps, these are percentages. We're not hiding it from you. Pick the one you think's going to fit you better today. And then kind of watching what happens, taking notes of who's picking what, maybe asking the why on there too. Did you just not want to set it up, or did you think this is what worked for you? So I think also when you give that autonomy, it develops more buy-in to the program. Because it's like, I chose to do this lift today. Now I'm choosing this tempo at this practice. And it's, hey man, we're working together. It's not just me. It's not just you. But it's, we want to do this together the best we can. I don't know how I got onto that from in season, but hopefully I touched on that a little bit. Just staying strong consistently. Intensity's high, volume's low, but as we reach a midpoint in the year, we are open to what is happening and how can we make sure we mitigate that or help that, and then finishing the year with a rate of force development philosophy or approach. When I say mitigate, kind of like, things are going to pop up, man. This is football. This is collision. This is violent. If you don't want to get hurt, stand next to me on the sideline. Like, I might get my toe stepped on, but it's pretty safe over by me. Step on the field, you inherit risk. It is what it is. So just trying to make sure we do the best we can. Yeah.
Now, what's the frequency in season, and what days are y'all going?
Worked here 10 years, so we've ran a lot of different programs. We've ran, I think the biggest, I want to say like argument, but the biggest, I think D2 talk at least, is like, do you go on Sundays or not? Do you go Sundays, Mondays?
Yeah, we do.
So I think that's kind of, at least when I talk with people, that's usually the first. Like, do you go on Sunday? Do you not? Do you squat? Yeah. And then you start the talk. So we have ran both in before. I guess I'll start farther back. We've ran Sunday weights, Monday swim, Wednesday weights. We've ran Sunday swims, Mondays off, Tuesday weights, Thursday weights. What is normal for us? I'm going to say right now, if coach says, hey, I want to switch it, I'm going to look him in the eye. I'm going to tell him, yes, sir. I work for you, Jay Long, head football coach, and we're going to make it happen. Last 2 years, we have gone Sundays for us, day one, getting off the bus, whatever it is. That is our first day in the weight room. Monday has been their NCAA day off. In the weight room on Tuesday, in the weight room on Thursday. So in season, we're 3 days a week. Out of season right now, we're at 4 days plus runs. But we try to make sure we don't ever fall off 3 days, even if, no matter what in season. Like obviously a Thursday game, some things might tweak, but on paper, we want to guarantee us those 3 opportunities. I think it's the best way to say it. And I don't want them Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I'll take them if that's the only one they'll give me. But it's more about we want these 3, and then based off of what you guys want for practice, how do we make you right? So.
And what's your approach each one of those days? Like Sunday, are they coming in and maybe tapering off, or are they hitting it hard? We
were about as far on both ends of that spectrum as you could possibly be this year. Started the year off, and we were hot on Sundays. I know, we were excited. Everybody was. And we were training. I think we were doing good things on Sunday. We were taking also our individuals that were below 10 reps, not including special teams, and they would hit about a 40-minute lift, and then we would take them on the field to run. My thought there, I know people have a different approach. I'm not saying mine's right. There's always like the max speed or high velocity argument they didn't get on Saturday. I think that we give them plenty of opportunities with our practice style that they can touch those through the week. And we started the year with Sundays with, I won't call it low level, but tempo runs, so that if one of our third guys or whoever could be the next up didn't get its playing time, it's like, I don't want you to decondition, because the day we need you, dog, you can't cramp. You're already going in for a reason as the sub. Like, you can't go down.
Yep.
So that was our approach early in the year, and we ran it for about half of it. We're also Midwest Nebraska, man, and weather does happen here. We don't have a traditional football indoor. We have an indoor track, but we couldn't have, during some time, throw your cleats on, let's go. So we ended up shifting some of our Sunday to the very high load guys that we had, because we had a pretty drastic, like, high load was high load. And then we had a few tweeners, and then everything else was low. So really trying to take care of high load as best as we could. Can't say we could individualize everyone's program the best in the world. We do the best we can, fit it under that umbrella of decisions, but it was trying to make sure if those are our best guys and they're playing X amount of snaps, 11 games in a row, let's keep them our best guys. Let's keep them on the field playing as many of those snaps as possible. And if that means I got to make an ego decision of guess we can't back squat Tommy today. So be it, man. I want him in the end zone on Saturdays. If I think back squatting is going to help him get there, let's have that conversation. That's why we do what we do. But I think making sure we tried to do the best we could within that Sunday approach. So that was a long answer for Sundays. Sundays started out with being like, let's get under the bar, let's get our squat day. I won't say done with, that's the wrong approach. Let's get it crossed off as early in the week as we can. And then the Tuesday lift for us, that was more of the last majors that we had, whether it be we want to get under the bar a second time, we want to put the clean in, we want to go unilateral. And our Thursdays was a little bit more of a blend of definitely rate of force development, exercise selection, size was lower, power-wise we wanted to go higher, and it was really about moving as quick as we could for certain elements, whether that's through rotation, trunk twist, med ball throws. We definitely ripped some cleans on some Thursdays. I guess the easiest way to phrase it is, as a strength coach, what you think a primer would be was kind of how we approached our Thursdays. And our Thursdays, in terms of, we had quite a few away games this year, and it wasn't uncommon for us to train at 8 a.m. and then go get on a bus 2 hours later. So also making sure you might have this great plan for Thursday, you better be ready for a 9-hour bus ride too though, and knowing what's going to happen or how they'll respond to standing after that. So Thursday's a little bit looser, but trying to just focus on bar speed, bat speed, ball speed, just anything we can with a little higher tempo.
Well, it's how it goes throughout the season. There's going to be some sort of adversity where there's going to be some challenges that come along the way. And how do you, as a strength coach that sees them more than possibly their football coach, how do you handle those challenges?
I truly think it starts with relationships. And I'm going to start that in terms of the sport coach. That I think those challenges are challenges based on perception. And if you have great conversations and you can have hard conversations, even when you don't see eye to eye of he ain't ready or he is or this versus that, like having that, no, we're good, let's have this talk, man, does that make that easier? Not saying it's easy to do, but the outcome is always easier to settle with because of the respect you have for that other person of it's not personal, it's for the best of this individual or the program or the culture, and it's never going to be something different. So I think that one would be first. As a strength coach, we all want our athletes to be as strong as possible, as fast as possible, or at the best competitive state for their sport. Like that's a no doubt. At the same time, I'm less interested in, I guess, exactly how much weight is on the bar versus how they are competing in their sport. So like those challenges and conversations are, as a strength coach, we don't want to be the mechanic of, oh no, the car blew up, pull the engine, let's rebuild one, let's put one in. We want to be the fine tuners on the race car of, man, this thing's going well, let's try this. It's sped up, that's awesome, all right, well, let's try this. Not handling turns and agility quite as well, all right, well, it's with body weight, now look at this. So like, if we can do a million small check-ins, that is so much easier, I think more fun, more convenient, more fair than it is to rebuild that engine when something goes wrong. So I think as many times as we can be checking in with them, whether it is physically, just talking, seeing what you have as a coaching eye, because it's why we do what we do. But going back to, I guess, the challenges of being able to handle through conversations. And if that didn't answer it, feel free to rephrase that a little bit.
Oh, no, you're good, yeah. So we get done with the season, we start creeping into the off season about this time of year. Have y'all started off season lifting?
Oh heck yeah, man. We run on semesters, so sometimes like the trimester schools really throw me off. So first day of school was the 13th for us of January. Rules wise, started appropriate within that of later in the week. I don't want to say wrong, pretty sure we stay on course with our school. It just makes life easier. I'm like, hey, this is week 1, like, but it's week 3 of school, coach. I'm like, yeah, but it's week 1. Like, it's the first time we're together.
Yep.
If it's school week 1, it is week 1. If it is school week, that's how we program-wise. So we didn't have a full first week. We didn't even have a full second week because we had a snow day on Monday. But we just finished week 2 of off-season, and we'll go into week 3. But if we're counting workouts, we've had 5 lifts. So going into week 3, but had 5 lifts.
Yep. Same here. And so weather's a big factor for me here. I'm from Mississippi. You don't snow more than 2 days in a row. So these are challenges for me. I'm having to figure out, hey, what can we do to, maybe work on some speed work and not only lift, but do different things. And so these challenges pop up, what challenges are you facing right now in this off season? Maybe early on or even in the previous years?
First, within that, I picked this up from the staff over at Navy, and I have a lot of respect for it, which is never use facility limitations or constraints as an excuse. And that's what I talk with our staff on also, is like, guys, if they said who wants an indoor, I'll be the first hand to go up. Like, I don't not want the thing, but we don't have it. So don't tell me the 10 things we can't do. Like, let's have some solutions. What can we do? Don't drop a problem on my doorstep. Give me some solutions.
Yep.
So if you just said, like, hey, what would make your life easier, Coach Kreis, today? Please get me an indoor, man. If you got that kind of money, donation-wise, we'll put your name up. But if we had an indoor, it'd make things easier. I'm not saying we can't accomplish what we want to with what we have. Easier is just like what it sounds. It's easier. Does it make it the route? So that would be nice. In terms of just opening up space, planning. We have the indoor track, and within that, I don't think you can ever over-communicate, and everyone knows if everyone knows. So whether that's myself, the track coach, the cross, the softball program, anyone that could use that indoor, let's be in great communication. And if someone's not going to use a slot, let's not let it go wasted. And same for me. Don't just say I'm going to run football 5 days all of these times and then not show up and use them all. So I think the more you can work with people versus saying, well, why does this sport get it? Why does that sport it? Versus look at all of our schedules and how do we fit this in? Like, we all want to win. Every sport does, not one more than another. So that would be very helpful on that side. Just as a couple others, if you guys allowed us to have unlimited staff sizes, also really help us out in terms of, I think, one, you have to have the right staff, absolutely. But when you have the right staff and the right people in place, you get to provide that much more care for individuals. So I think that's what bigger staffs allow you to do. Hopefully what it should allow you to do. And then third dream would be drop me an unlimited budget, please. Whether that is weight room or nutrition.
Yeah, nutrition's a killer. How early are you getting your guys to start running? When, like, is your off season different from your in season philosophy? Just kind of talk about your off season.
Definitely. I want to start off season talk with where we're at right now, and then kind of like version 2 is the summer for us. I mean, like D2 is very unique, and it also makes this so special for these reasons. In that when we're in weights or something right now, like the football coach can be around, like they're allowed to be in the facilities type thing. When we go to summer times, like they're not there, and we go unlimited. Man, is that a fun time with everybody. So I think one, that is a difference right out of the gate. In terms of running, which you kind of touched on, we've had different approaches over the years. Recently, looking at some stuff that University of Iowa did that look at their success on it. I'm not saying you look at good teams and say, gimme and run, because it doesn't work. Like you said, you have to have the right things in place with the right people for things to work. But I think not being afraid to run earlier is definitely a little bit more of our approach this year. Not that we were afraid last year, but it was almost like if we were to slice up a piece of pie, a really big portion of that pie got put into the weight room versus field sport, the other, whatever you want to argue on there. So we did start running right out of the gate this year, so right into the first day, essentially. But saying that with that, trying to make sure we layer this the right way so it leads to where we hope to go. Not just to run to say we ran and that, see that coach, God, the guy's tired today, see that? But having like the plan, so for us was we want to work acceleration early in our program right now. So our first run was repeat sprint efforts, and it was definitely not acceleration from the track and field sense of let's put them on a laser and are we improving, versus it was our base level run. So we did, I'll speak first for outside the box, we did 8 reps of a 10-yard sprint, roughly 20 seconds apart. We gave them 3 minutes between, and we ran 2 sets of it after our plyo segment for the day. Like, welcome to sprint intro. For us to be fast, one, we have to let you recover, but it also doesn't matter if you're the fastest on the team every 3 minutes. So we try to make sure we kind of touch that element of small conditioning first so we can then get to true speed work. And then from there, we'll end up basically going 2 days a week for a few weeks, and then we'll go to 3 days and just kind of layer up towards spring ball. So as we go to next week, Monday will stay acceleration day for us. Tuesday will be a start of intro change of direction for us. And then as we end up layering later on, Fridays we'll add in either high velocity or what I'm just going to phrase as football winter conditioning. I think we all know within that. And then for the acceleration segment, we've built a plan, not that it's right, but it's going to work for us, of talking with resources, references, our track coach. If you have a track program, why would you not use that individual? But of trying to say that, hey, this is our plan to start. This is when we're going to run laser 10s, and then we're going to increase a fly to a 10 every week by this many yards. For us, going to be going up a fly 10, longer 10 every time to a 10-yard gate, until we reach that fly 30 to a 40. Fly 30 to the 10-yard gate for like that 40. And that's what we're going to use for our speed acceleration work as we kind of go into spring ball. And then obviously the change of direction and Friday runs are not that. So Mondays is going to be about running fast, and then the other days are going to be other.
And then the frequency that y'all go, is it Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday through Thursday?
Runs are Monday, Tuesday, Friday. And that's for this winter block. Summer, like I said, is kind of like off-season 2.0, because now it's all strength staff all the time, every day. So that one's a little different. So in season, we are 4 lifts, 3 runs. Sorry, out of season right now. Don't mess that up. Right this second, January 2025, yeah, we are 4 weights, 3 runs. So 3 of those days, double days. But how we program it too is we do afternoon weights in off season, at least we do right now, which I'm loving with football because I love me.
Is that 2 groups? How many, you do offense, defense? How do y'all split it up?
Based off roster size really determines it. This year we're 2 groups. In the past we've ran 3, with that third group being our surgery or return to play athletes. And that honestly helped us for 2 reasons, which was now they're not being maybe missed in a group of, we got 45 guys squatting heavy, and I also have ACL at 3 months over here. So we put them, no matter the injury, all at their own time together. It allowed us as a staff to care more and to like actually see every result that we're trying to put in. Right now we do F7, front 7, and outside the box. The only one for us in our program that's like kind of tweeners, I guess. We have all different size running backs. Those are outside the box for us. And then any version of our linebackers, whether you are a true backer in the box, you're kind of over there on the edge, or you straight are an edge rusher labeled linebacker, we put those guys with the front 7 just from the volume perspective that we lift a little bit differently.
And talk about how you train those 2 different groups. You have 2 different programs for them. Is there like 1 or 2 things you change in each lift?
So like I said, principles of the lifts are going to be the same. The details of how we get to the goal is a little different. So I think like, I have my hands up. I know a lot of people listen to this, but like, we want to start here and get here. It doesn't matter which car you take. We're both going to get to this spot. And that's how I want to kind of preface this portion. The first one is I got to give Coach Mick his shout out again. I mean, he does every aspect of football. It's not me in here doing it. It is us in our department, and he's so involved. But he specifically ran our F7 group for like 4 to 5 years at this point, and it allowed us to, like you said earlier, with moving our return to play athletes to a different lift, allow you to care more. And it's not that I care for like bigs or outside the box differently, but it's that you get to put that much more effort and care and details and triple checking and references into that one program. They're definitely not night and day different. Like if you looked at it, sometimes you might have to double glance to get the changes, and then sometimes they are very clear on that sheet. But so I will do primarily all outside the box, from the speed work through the weights, the same for his group. And what we found worked for him and I, to also make sure we're not maybe chasing in a different direction, kind of that reference like don't chase multiple rabbits. There could be 50 out there, and look at how many big ones there are versus look at that big one, let's go get it. So we sit together, we do this as a staff, but we sit together every single Friday and we start on the workout card, usually for outside the box, kind of like let's set the template for the week of what is going to fit in certain spots. And then from there, we'll probably both spend about an hour separated of like, make the best one you can. And then we meet again of like, basically looking over each other's, why are you doing this? I love this. Explain this to me. That ain't going to flow super well, man. But like, for the most part, if you had to say like the core lifts, no, those are going to be the same for us. Rep range is different, but both groups squat, both groups split squat, both groups are going to pull from different angles. Those things don't change, but the amount of time we spend in a grappling position versus overhead versus unilateral, bilateral, pseudo-unilateral, that argument, that starts to have some tweaks. Because our OTB guys outside the box, whether right or wrong, they can handle a very higher level amount of intensive single leg work than our 300-pound offensive tackle. And it's not that he doesn't need it, he just needs a different version of it. So by us running those two groups, we can kind of like make those decisions just a little bit like, our bigs need this. Our offensive line needs this. Well, they're already in the same group. Awesome. So that answered it, I guess, a little bit for you.
Yep, exactly. Summertime comes around. Do y'all have a lot of players over the summertime? Are they working? Kind of explain their lifestyle in the summer.
First, I have to give respect to our head coach, because if your head coach doesn't care if your athletes are there, why would they care? Because I could want you there for a million reasons I have, but that head coach and the individual playing for the head coach, they steer a lot of those decisions a lot more. We're very thankful to have very high participation rates. I say very high, also sometimes neglecting the fact that an institution like yours, as national champions, it's more uncommon to leave than to stay. When I first started, there was a select few individuals that stayed. One, there wasn't a full-time strength coach yet, but also it wasn't an expectation yet. So like year one for me, I think it was like me and 15 guys. I remember those 15 guys. And then every year it just kept growing a little bit. This year when we hit June 1, like that first workout, let's roll. Well, one, I think it was like on a Sunday or something, so it didn't line up perfect. But our first session, I think we were 50 to 60 guys day one. And by the time we hit July, like when we do that break of like July 5th, 6th, let's roll, I would say we had over 80% of our team all here with us. So for us, or at least from my perspective, I view that as high participation rates when it's not required in D2. And man, we're a blue collar town, we're a blue collar school, and our athletes work. If you're not forced to work, what a blessing. I'm not saying that's wrong, but a lot of the guys we have they're going to grind and work, and we make sure the weight room, the best we can, fits that schedule. So my example here is like, I mean, we're Midwest Nebraska, we're rural. We got guys that work ranches, and we love it. It is what it is. They're going to start at 6 a.m. It doesn't matter what time we want weights. So we try to make sure, like going back to the no excuses part, we offer early and late. Makes it hard on our schedules at times in terms of being a grown individual, having a life outside of this place. But it's basically like, hey, we got a 6 a.m. run, and if you can't make it, we got a 6 p.m. run. Don't tell me you're working over those 12-hour periods. So I think, at least for us, that's worked, because if you told me we had 100 guys staying, over 80 of them are going to have jobs. And those range from I'm close to graduating, I'm working at the bank, I'm doing an internship, to I need money and I'm not above work, I'm going to McDonald's, I'm going to wherever it is, to the ranches, to Walmarts. So, I mean, we got guys that stock overnight, and then we'll show up for the 6 a.m. workout. Like, they turn into nighttime workers. If you're willing to do it, we will adapt the schedule the best we can.
Yeah, I will say that's the biggest difference, too, from other schools I've been at, is keeping those guys there all summer. You know, and our coach does a great job of finding them work, getting them jobs, whether it's at the country club, whether it's at the local grocery store. Like, he's just getting them opportunities so they can stay here and train and be ready. Because you know just as well as I know, if you're a freshman and you come in, 4 years, you're there all 4 years, and you miss 3 months every summer of not training, that's a full year of development that we're talking. And I mean, that's just what you got to attack when you're and have a priority from an athlete standpoint that a lot of people don't think about. So I do believe that's probably the most important time is the summers and getting them there.
Yep.
But it's how bad do you want to be there as an athlete? And like you
Absolutely.
said, if you want it to happen, you're going to find a way.
Yep.
You know.
And then you took the job during the summertime, is that correct?
Yep, I did.
When in the summer, just to help me?
I started in May, late May.
Oh, okay.
So I got here, and the old strength coach has already left, and everybody went home to train with, their trainer and, doing their own kind of thing, and you know how it is.
Yep.
And I probably had about 30 guys, I believe, because, they're not fully trusting who I am yet, and I can't blame them, but, we hit the ground running, and word got out that we were working, and, you slowly get guys coming more and more and more, and that way, July 4th, that's the marker where we've been at, where everybody has to come. July 5th is where everybody's reported, but, you get them there all before June, and,
Oh, that
we get a good 4 months work there. So
June is so important. I always think like if you're there in June, even if you're not where you should be, but you're there in June, we can get you right. If you show up July 5th to 6th or whatever, and you're not ready, we're now going to use the time we have left to get you ready for fall camp. And that whole I want to be better than I was before, it's not even in my mind. It's let's get you back. So yeah, June is so important. One question for you.
yeah.
Is it common for you, or I guess for the summer you had, for all of your incoming freshmen to join that July mark?
So at my old school, the coach made it mandatory. Don't quote me on this. I believe it was before July. They had to move July 4th. They had to move in, and that way July 5th hit, where everyone's together, everyone's getting that, and I believe it's because they needed some of those freshmen to play early on. So you got to get them here and get them up to speed. Here, he doesn't make the freshmen show up until right a week before school starts, and now he will especially invite some of them and get them here early. But for the most part, and this is what makes Ferris State so successful, I believe, is a lot of these guys are wanting to redshirt. They know coming in like, all right, I might not play this year, and so it's not a quick demand of getting athletes here fast. But to answer your question, yes and no. I've seen it done both ways. But we do get a majority of our team here in July. I'd say about 80% of our team is here. All the returners will be here, and you might get a couple freshmen that are local here.
Nice. I think we're pretty kind of similar on that of 1 to 80%, but head coach has never made a requirement of any type that those freshmen got to show up at X point early, other than like, hey, move-in day is this many days before fall camp. The past 2 years, we've kind of had, I'm going to call it handfuls. It was like 2 years ago, I think we had 6 freshmen come July 6th. This year, we had 11 of them come. But I also believe, my approach on it is like, if they're going to play, let's get them in. I agree with everything you said earlier. I thought that was really smart, actually. I didn't think of all that. But it was like, if I do want them to stay, welcome to college, and you redshirt freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, it's like, that's your last summer. You get, man. Graduate, walk across stage, get that diploma. Nice job. That's your last summer you got.
And that's the challenge with Division Two is like, who's paying for this? These freshmen need somewhere to live, and the Division One world, throw them in dorms. Division Two world, somebody's having to pay for it. So I've seen it where freshmen are living 5 deep in a 3-bed house, and they're just making it work. So kudos to those kind of guys who are on that kind of grind, but it's just different, man.
I thought one of the things that was awesome, and I can't name the institution, not because I can't, but I can't right now.
Yeah.
But it was, they had a summer dorm rate, and to make sure school-wise that is correct, policy, legal, however you want to phrase that, they offered it to all students. But it was basically like, it is the cheapest apartment you could get. If no one's filling up the dorms all summer, why not drop it to $300? Try to get all those freshmen
A little
in there.
bit of money, yeah.
Pick it up. We haven't had success with that yet, but I do think that that's an awesome opportunity to get the athletes or students to stay during the summer. Let's find a way to give them affordable housing. So.
Yep, so that's the top priority in my mind. And the second thing is, nutrition.
Yep.
How are you handling nutrition where you're at?
Well, first on it, summer nutrition, like that, it terrifies me as an 18-year-old kid coming up. Now we're putting you in a dorm for your first time. There isn't on-campus cafeteria yet. You don't have a kitchen. Like, that's not a good recipe. Let's be real.
No.
Nutrition-wise, man, I was blessed when we had the opportunity to start. When I was earlier in my career starting, I think I also, I wanted to be as good as I could. And I also thought that meant, do a lot and try to be good at a lot. So as a staff of one, I was willing to, try to start a nutrition center. So we started with, bare bones, man. We were a chocolate milk program. And it, right from a school cafeteria, we called it the cow, but, lifting, filling pitchers, pouring it, the whole thing.
Wow.
We then were very thankful of Dr. Thurnis, given his respect. His son Cole Thurnis was an amazing athlete for us. For work ethic, like I will probably continue to reference in my career of like guys like Cole as like a saying for me because he was special. But his dad was kind of like how you were phrasing. He was nutrition matters. It's a difference, and I believe in it so much. Not just for my kid. I want to help your program, not just football. Your programs. And he was essentially like the catalyst of Chadron State Nutrition Center. So thankful for us, it's about 5 steps from our weight room is the old basketball arena, which means old basketball concession stand.
Yeah.
So we were able to take that, remodel it, and that was a first for me. Like never done anything but light bulbs and stuff kind of thing.
Yep.
But it was taking that nutrition center, putting in the granite, putting in the stainless steel, the sinks, making sure we're compliant.
And you're doing all this, or did you contract somebody out?
Yo, I contracted.
Okay, I was just making sure because
Approval. So Dr. Thurnis was the catalyst of, I will financially invest for your programs to have this. So he allowed us to do the remodeling. He then had his opportunities of how he was going to essentially fund and help sponsor that with the help of athletics. So when it started, it was, I will take care of the remodeling. I say I. Dr. Thurnis helped us take care of that remodeling. He then allowed us to be basically the protein side of the budget. Was he was able to donate, and then we had a separate spot of this is for protein. And then every year we just kind of kept getting better with it. I think we got to a point that we started doing too many things. So when we did our SWOT analysis last year of end of the year nutrition, for lack of better terms, through the weight room, what we realized for my athletes was we just need to be really freaking good at something, not kind of good at 6 things. So we simplified it. We're like, okay, this is what we hear. Let's do it. We are going to be the best at protein. We're never going to miss. Not a day. Oh, we didn't get the milk delivery. Oh, I forgot to order it. It's like, no, we're never going to miss. Every team, every session, all year, protein. So for our nutrition center is protein every day for any athlete that trains and walks out. We have staff from the one you've heard of, as well as we're very blessed to have student interns here. We have the strength conditioning major that is offered, which then provides us roughly 4 to 8 interns a semester. We teach them, they learn to coach, everything we went through on there. There's also a side of nutrition element in there, whether that is education, hands-on making. We need the ingredients listed on the board, food allergy wise. Put something fun on there. It's like, so utilizing the help. So we are heavy protein based. Essentially, that's kind of the core of what we do. Football this year, we did a hydration protocol plan, and I do think that that was something that could help other programs out. Not in terms of this is the difference, but we tried to put the best plan we could find in place for cramp prevention, as stupid as that is to talk about, and it's something we'll stick with going forward.
what options are in the nutrition center?
The first one starts, we're in an era of a lot of milks, Coach. If you didn't know, we got oat milk, almond milk, soy milk. Yeah, they're just going to keep going. So, yeah, we got some milks up in here. But essentially is like, I'm going to say use the word milk as our primary mixer base. From there, we do have options of just the generic. Do you want chocolate? Do you want vanilla, strawberry, like all of those ones? Sometimes you do get options of like, hey, Coach Haynes, what you want? Strawberry. We made chocolate. Ask it. So that would be kind of the easiest start there. And then there are times in the year, like as we're kind of approaching of the flu's not a season, believe it or not. It's an adaptation of a lot of sugar, not as much sun, and a lot of people.
Yeah.
Actually switch off of the milk here for a couple weeks and go to orange juice. And we go orange juice, vanilla protein, nickname it the Orange Julius. That's usually a good little hit, but primarily, man, it's just going to be a milk-based mixer with whatever flavor protein. And if you have a preference, we work with you, but at the same time, like, dog, don't just tell me you wanted vanilla today and not drink the chocolate. And then you're always going to have, I'm going to call the unique situations of dietary restraints of whatever type. So we try to make sure we can cover those individuals too of, hey, I'm gluten intolerant. And it's like, oh, perfect. That's why we got these ones. Or, hey, I'm lactose intolerant, whatever it is. Just trying to have options of making sure that someone doesn't have to say, I can't. Like I said, don't bring me a problem, bring me a solution. If I don't have what you want, tell me what you do, and I'll do everything I can to get it for you. But if I don't know what I don't know, so tell me.
Oh, yeah. No, well, I don't know if you do any food. We're fortunate enough where we get muscle milks. for it, which is really
Trying to work
pricey.
there. Let's do this.
Really pricey. So
Hoping we're there.
we have a Pepsi contract, so they kind of really helped us with it too. So it's not like we're having to completely bomb. We got a good contract there.
I'm gonna
But
pick
they
your
get
brain
that
on that.
one more time.
I'm gonna pick your brain on that when we're done. Not just put everyone's finances out there.
Oh yeah.
Working towards the same thing. So yeah.
We love PB&Js here.
Yep.
We'll get like a big bowl. We'll put a bunch of we'll put 3 things of jelly, 2 things of peanut butter, and we just mix it all up, slap it on there, and
You're
then
doing that?
yeah, we're doing that. We're doing that here.
We did that in fall camp. My staff hated me. I even.
Oh yeah, it sucks to
I'm
do, but
sorry. This was a mistake.
I got to the point where at my old school we were doing it so much that the players just would make their own bread. But I mean, we'd go through 20 loaves a
Yep.
week, eating that.
In the past.
We do like cereal bars, granola bars, no protein bar because that's all expensive. But the
Yep.
like chewy bar, stuff like that. We'll
Yeah,
do.
we have all those. I also don't want to have to say we have some of those things because I don't want to be known as Team Rice Krispie. But
Yeah, and when I first got her, you talked about having a variety of a lot of things. I got her. There was gummy bears. There were
yep.
uh, beef jerky, and I'm like, that's not enough calories now. Like, so in my mind, like as a nutrition center, they're grab and going. They're not like hanging out, not dependent on it as a meal. So we got to get them calories as quick as we can. And so whether it's a banana or they're going to like a lot of the female athletes love the fruits, so they'll pound that and the string cheese. The guys just want what's the most filling. So the PB and J's and the granola bars is what they like. The cereal bars, those are a hit. So that's really what we do. We have probably 6 things that we'll buy, but we'll buy a bunch of it, and it's cheap. We spend about honestly $200 a week on groceries,
Yeah.
and
That's where we are.
that string cheese, that's applesauce, that's a box of bananas, that's 5 bags of oranges, and then the rest of that money goes to cereal bars, like granola bars, like I said, and that lasts.
The same. We did the granola bars. We went Danimals at some point. We've everything you think of when you walk through that Walmart aisle you maybe shouldn't be in. It's like we probably had some of those options, and we did the case of apples, a case of bananas type thing a week. And we reached a point of I can't make that much banana bread to keep up with that.
Yeah.
But then it was like, all right, we're doing all these things. What do the athletes want? And basically our commonality answer was we want more protein. So that's what we hit this year. And my goal going forward is to basically move from the 6 blender station that we have to go to all of the RTDs, pre-made, ready to drinks. Let's roll. So
Yeah, obviously those are more expensive, but the coolest thing, and I talked about it last week, but the West Alabama, Coach Dukehart, he has these like smoothie machines, margarita machines, dumps protein in there, dumps the milk, and it just keeps it cold and it always goes, and they just go up and hit it.
my dad had those at UCLA, and all that I had ever heard remembering wise was whoever's job it was to clean that thing, how
Oof.
the nightmare it was.
Yeah,
That's when, like, early on ours, when we had as an option, I was like, it's a no for me, but it's not a no from experience, it's a no from being told no. Like,
I just thought that was the craziest, like smartest idea I've ever seen
Right.
because, down in Mississippi, whatever works.
I mean, at the end of it, that's the answer, right? Whether it's nutrition, what we do, but what works, works. So.
For sure. Last couple questions. Talk about a quick overview of your technology and what do you wish you had.
You always want to have that opportunity to push for the things you want, and then making sure you're not using limitations as a reason of why you can't accomplish things. In terms of technology, we are definitely not at the forefront, and I don't think that that's a negative thing. Not that we want to be in a certain end of that spectrum, but once again, don't use what you don't have as an excuse. So for us, we've had the GPS units that we've used in the past. SBT was the ones that we've gone through. Jump mats, lasers, the brand we're using for lasers, man, I should have, Dasher, for us, that is a Nebraska-based company. And then, other than that, man, I think Excel would be our last little, tool. So I don't want to ever make this sound like negative on there. We like how we train. We love this room and what we have, and the athletes we recruit also reflect those type of things. And I'm not down because we don't have something inside this room. Like, yeah, having some force decks and BBT and an iPad and a green light flashing every time that you hit it would be cool. Like, yeah, I'd use it. I don't think that we're worse off because we don't have it. So we do put our efforts into those other things, but also being honest, I mean, like, I don't know everything. I'm not perfect as a strength coach. And I think one of the things I can improve on is how we collect that data, or just data throughout our sessions. But then what do you do with it? Like, don't just collect it to hold it, but trying to find a reason within it, whether you are tracking the progression, looking for kinks in the armor. But one of the things I'm trying to be better at is just the data collection and then recognition of what's important from it. So.
Yeah, it makes me think how far along it's come since your dad was coaching, you know? Do you think he'd be a fan of it? What do you think?
I do. He was different at the time in terms of that era. It wasn't as public as it is now. And like, before we talked, I was kind of brushing up on some of his stuff to make sure I was ready to roll. And like, that book right here, this one was 1990, Behind the Iron Curtain with Ben Tabachnik.
Wow.
He got to go over to the USSR at the time and then go over to East-West Germany for those things. So like,
I'm about to get that. That's awesome.
yeah.
Man, you're super fortunate. But before we end, talk about anybody you want to shout out, you know, anybody you want to give some thanks to.
My staff, man, those are my guys. That's my group. I love what we do as strength coaches. They also, what they provide for us, they allow me to love this at the same time. So I'm super thankful for my guys. They're great at what they do. Don't steal them unless you got a much better offer for everyone out there, because I want them.
We need a GA if you want to give an intern over.
So, we can have that talk on there, though, absolutely. But a lot of great people. I don't think I can do justice. As you know, doing what we do is a commitment for our family. That means for literally my family, I am away a lot. And for my life partner, Miss Gabby, she has got to go for this ride with me. And I love that she is willing to embrace it. So, my first shout out to my people right there of thank you to you for letting me do what I do, man. Over at Colorado Mines, Trevor Florendo, his other guy, Isaiah Castilleja, they are elite at what they do. Trevor, to me, is about as smart as a strength coach could ever get with still being a strength coach. So he has been there 10 years at Colorado Mines. They've had an incredible amount of success.
Yep.
Known that dude now for over 10 years. So we've been in this conference. We enjoy each other. I want to beat him every time that we play, but he's my dude. He's a graduate of Colorado Mines, meaning he's a mechanical engineer that chose to be a strength coach.
Wow.
So, in terms of, the smarts behind, not just on the floor, guarantee you he's great, but, this screen stuff, I think he's truly elite because of the way he's able to coach and the way his brain works. And I just remember, one of our early conversations was how strong enough, and he'd start dropping some Z-scores on me. I had to take some notes there along the way on stuff, but yeah, his staff is great, and man, he's a good individual. He's a good dude. He's a man of God, and in terms of our conference, there's a lot of great coaches out there, so I'm not neglecting anyone, but he is up there with guys I respect, and when I need something or am looking for something, he's a call that I give.
Well, thanks again, Coach, for hopping on, and, you gave a lot of great information.
Ramble a little bit, man. You're easy to talk to, and this was a...
No, we love it, man. The more, the better.
All these people listen and want to hear what you have to say, so let's make sure you finish up one of the ones for you.
I need to get to where I talk more. I'd love to maybe get my own episode or something, but we'll see. All right, Coach. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. You can also follow us on Instagram for more updates at Under the Barbell Strength Podcast, and if you know someone who would love this episode, please share it with them.